Greetings, everyone. Well, today I've got kind of a mixed bag for you. This is actually, there's a Blu-ray, there's a bunch of DVDs, and yeah, basically some stuff I've been wanting to do a video about for a while, and I thought, well, I just picked up the one of them on Blu-ray, so why don't I talk about the whole collection and why I kept the DVDs and stuff like that. What am I talking about? Well, a science fiction classic that has been adapted a few times over the years. Once as a theatrical film, which was then recut into a two-part miniseries version that was disowned by the director of the original theatrical version. And then almost 20 years later, it was redone as a three-part miniseries on the Sci-Fi Channel before they changed their name to Sci-Fi, with all the Y's. Yeah. And then there was also a sequel to that, which adapted the second and third books in the series, which had never been adapted before. There had just been those two adaptations of the first book, but never the second and third, so that was kind of a treat. What am I talking about? Well, let's head over to the Blu-ray and DVD shelves. We'll pull everything off and take an initial look, and then we'll talk about it all in depth today. But yeah, so I'll see you over at the shelves. Well, in my book update, one of my book updates a few videos ago, I actually talked about the books that these particular productions are based on. So let's not waste any time because we got a lot of different things to talk about today. So let's just get them off the shelf and see what they're going to be. Dune. Oh yeah. That's right. Dune. But this isn't all we're going to talk about. This is the Blu-ray of the movie, the 1984 movie, which recently came out. Picked this up for like $10, I think. I couldn't resist that. I mean, it's frickin' Dune for $10. But there's more. I have more Dune in my collection. Let's head over to the Sci-Fi DVD shelf and take a look at the rest. So we have Dune, and Children of Dune. That's right, we got a whole pile of Dune here. We got the Steelbook edition of the movie, which also includes the two-part TV version, like the 3-hour cut that David Lynch disowned. We've got the director's cut of the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries, which is notable in my personal history because it's one of the first Blu-rays, one of the first DVDs I ever picked up. Picked up this and the 20th anniversary of Tron at about the same time before I even had a DVD player. This one is actually notable because it's the very first Steelbook I ever bought, period, like of any kind. And I thought it was just gorgeous, but we'll take a closer look at that in a few minutes. And then finally we got the sequel, Children of Dune, which actually adapts books 2 and 3 of the original Dune novels. So there we go. Dune, Dune, Dune. And that's what we're going to talk about today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Don't get sand in your shorts. Welcome back. I remember when Dune was first released on VHS back in the day by MCA Universal Home Video. My parents and I rented it, and when they rented it, they were given a sheet of paper that had sort of a mini glossary of terminology that was used in Dune, because I guess the fear of the studio was that maybe the movie had bombed in theaters because people didn't know what the hell was going on. So they included this glossary of terms for anybody, just as a free giveaway for anybody who rented it, or I guess if they bought it. And well, I was going through my papers a little while ago, just kind of reorganizing stuff, filing things and whatnot, and I found the original glossary that was given away with the VHS tapes. Right, there we go. Ta-da! And if you look, the copyright date at the bottom is copyright 1985, MCA Universal. So this is one of the original official giveaway glossary sheets that they handed out with the VHS release. Pretty cool. So it's called Terminology of the Imperium, and it basically just gives you all kinds of different little info, about what Arrakis is, the different houses, some of the characters, and some of the concepts and whatnot. I don't know. Essentially, if you needed a glossary like that, by that point, you're just a lost cause. Honestly, I felt that there was enough information in the movie to explain what was going on. For me, it just took a couple of viewings to kind of pick up on things. I mean, yeah, obviously it's complex and whatnot, but it's just the nature of the story. I mean, it's like one of those great fantasy adventures where it's just a fully realized fictional world created by the author, in this case Frank Herbert, with a lot of complexity to it. All you need to know what's going on is just pay attention, like that. I mean, Dune really is no more complex or interwoven or deep or rich than Game of Thrones. And people are having no problem with Game of Thrones these days, so I don't see why they would have any problem with Dune. Now, enough about that. On to the actual various editions we have here. I do love me some Dune. The thing that actually got me really hooked on Dune was when I first saw the movie when I was a kid. I wasn't really big on it. Like, I thought the effects and everything were cool, but I mean, I was very much part of the Star Wars generation, so I expected something with a little more action to it. And Dune does have some action to it, but it's a pretty slow-paced story. I mean, it's Star Wars, it ain't. It's more about political intrigue and just grand, sweeping, majestic epicness, and there's of course the religious parallels and whatnot as well. And that was pretty heady stuff for. How old was I? 12, 13 at the time? Yeah, I was just starting to get into more complicated stories like that, but it was still, at the time, Dune was a little bit over my head, and I think I just didn't really appreciate it. So it wasn't until a few years later that I actually saw the two-part extended miniseries version. I saw it first when I was still living with my parents, and seeing that version, suddenly things were a lot clearer to me, because they explained, they had a voiceover narrator in it, and it explained things a lot more. And I'm sure if I had just read the book, I would have had no problem with it. But having only seen the movie, I found the miniseries version it clarified a lot of things. But I mean, in terms of dramatic structure, it's definitely inferior to the theatrical cut, in my opinion. And then a few years later, the miniseries was repeated on television when I was living in Selkirk, and I watched it again and really enjoyed it, and enjoyed it like far more then. I mean, this was about 4 or 5 years later, so I was a little bit older. I was like 18, 19, and I really began to appreciate the story. And then what really got me hooked on it was actually one of the computer games. There was Dune, and then there was Dune 2, The Battle for Arrakis, which was a real-time strategy game set in the world of Dune, and I got it for the Amiga. I actually have the original. It's not a pirated copy or anything. I have it. It's boxed somewhere right now, but I just loved that game, and playing the real-time strategy game really puts you in that world, and I really got an appreciation for just how deep and rich that whole sci-fi world was. So I went back to watch the movies again, and then that was it. I mean, I was just a Dune fan for life from that point on. And around that time also, I guess around the time that I saw the miniseries for the second time, is when I also picked up the books, and then had the books for quite a while until, well, as I mentioned in my book update a little while ago, when I picked up Children of Dune, they went missing. Okay, so let's take a look at what we got here. So first off, not necessarily in the order they were released, we of course have the recently released Blu-ray version of Dune, which is quite nice. There's quite a selection of extras and whatnot on here. I was really excited actually when this edition came out because this was the first time we'd ever got a deluxe edition of the movie of any kind. So we'll talk about that in a moment. I'll just crack it open here. Inside, there's really not much to look at. There's no insert or anything. It's just the plain disc label there. But in terms of extras, we have deleted scenes, designing Dune, Dune FX, Dune models and miniatures. Gotta love the old model work, man. And Dune wardrobe design. And it is D-Box motion enabled, so you can actually turn Dune into a ride film. How cool would that be, actually? The sandworm riding scenes with turned into a ride film? That would be freaking awesome. Yeah. In terms of tech specs, we have it is in 1080p high definition widescreen, 2.35 to 1 CinemaScope. You got English DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 and French DTS HD 2.0 and English Dolby Digital 2.0. Subtitles, you got English, Spanish, and French. It is a BD50, so it is a 50 gig Blu-ray, which is great, which means they were able to use lots of space for the movie. The movie itself is, I believe, 2 hours and 17 minutes. And I think that's it. Special features, and the special features are actually all standard def. So, yeah, so basically most of the disc space, I would assume, has been used for the movie. I haven't actually sat down and watched the whole thing on Blu-ray just because, I mean, it's a movie I've seen so many times I could practically quote it to you. But what I did watch of it looked really good. I mean, the colors are really vibrant. I mean, the thing I always loved about the 1984 movie is the just the visuals of it, the visual design. Like, I really like how they just the different aesthetics of the different competing houses. The House Harkonnen, the Harkonnens are all like reds, the Atreides are all like blues and golds, and then you have the Emperor, which is mostly like purples and golds and stuff like that. And then you got the Fremen, of course, which are all more earth tones and stuff like that. But really cool. And the game, actually, Dune-2, The Battle for Arrakis, and most of the Dune games actually borrow most of their aesthetic from the movie. So for a very long time, the look of the movie was kind of the established, just normal look for the world of Dune. And yeah. So anyway, this one is notable because I can't remember if I mentioned the intro or not. I did the intro a few days ago. This was actually the very first steelbook I ever bought, and I think it was the first steelbook I ever saw, and I just thought it looked awesome. I thought, like, wow, they did like this cool deluxe packaging for Dune, and sadly it is a flipper disc, but and from Universal, and we all know about Universal's flipper discs. Yeah, the fortunately, no problem there. But the thing that's cool about this is it has the theatrical edition on one side, and it has the two-part miniseries version on the other side. Now, David Lynch, who directed the theatrical version of Dune, has basically disowned the miniseries version and hated it to such an extent that he actually had his name taken off it. So it uses the pseudonym of Alan Smithy for that one. Alan Smithy is a pseudonym used by directors throughout the history of cinema, essentially to indicate that they were displeased with how the film turned out and did not want to be associated with it. So whenever you see something directed by Alan Smithy, that means that whoever the actual director was didn't like how it turned out, to the point where he didn't want to be associated with it. So here we go. So I'll show you the insert here in just a moment. I'll just set that down. So in terms of bonus materials that we have on here, we have Deleted Dune, deleted scenes with an introduction by producer Rafaela De Laurentiis. Designing Dune, see how Dune's visual design was developed by director David Lynch and production designer Anthony Masters through original sketches and paintings, from pre-conceptual ideas to set designs. You'll gain an understanding of the magnificent scale of the production as ideas are turned into the working sets that transport us into the four worlds of Dune. Dune FX, from explosive pyrotechnics to the mechanics of the fighting robot to flying the Baron. Join Kit West and other special effects artists as they give you a thrilling inside look at the process of one of the most ambitious special effects productions of its time. Yeah, it was one of the most expensive movies ever made when it came out. I think it cost somewhere in the vicinity of 50 or 60 million, which is nothing by today's standards, but in 1984 that was just crazily high. Um, Dune models. Model Unit Supervisor Brian Smithies, no relation to Alan Smithy, explains the unique challenges of bringing the models to life on Dune, from the uncomfortable weather conditions to the crude motion control setup. Dune wardrobe. Costume designer Bob Ringwood and others explain how nearly 4,000 costumes were designed to create the looks of such memorable characters as the Reverend Mothers, the Emperor, the Military, and the Baron. Find out how the bodysuits were constructed. Oh, come on, you don't call them bodysuits, you call them still suits. God, you'd think they'd... Anyway. Were constructed and get a never-before-seen glimpse of wardrobes that were lost during production. And finally, photo gallery, behind-the-scenes photos and original artwork available for the first time. Excuse me. So that is the contents, and that seems to be, let's see, deleted scenes, yeah, designing Dune, yeah, Dune FX, Dune models and miniatures, yeah, and Dune wardrobe design. And there you go. The only thing it doesn't seem to have on the Blu-ray is the photo gallery. Although it may have it, they just don't mention it. Now, in terms of the insert here, we have, again, it goes through the extras on there. And then here, it actually tells you what's on the disc. So you have side A is the theatrical feature plus the bonus features. Side B is the basically the 3-hour miniseries version. So the 3-hour version contains basically 40 minutes of additional footage. A lot of that is still pictures and narration, essentially explaining the machine wars and whatnot. And look at that, a newly printed version of the terminology of the Imperium. Does this actually have all the same stuff? It has some of the same stuff. Yeah, so between the two of these terminology things, you should be pretty much set. But, of course, the VHS one is no longer available. Okay, so... Alrighty, so that covers the theatrical version. Needless to say, I really like the theatrical version. I know a lot of people are kind of mixed on it. The thing I enjoy about it is it's actually quite faithful to the book. Almost verbatim. Like, a lot of the dialogue is taken word for word out of the book. And you hear like whispers of the inner thoughts of the characters and whatnot. And of course, just the whole visual look of it is fantastic. And Sting is in it. Did I mention Sting? I didn't mention Sting. Yeah, Sting is in it. Sadly, Sting doesn't really get much to do. He plays Fade, the nephew of the Baron Harkonnen. But great cast, great music with Toto and Brian Eno, and just a great movie all around. Definitely a cult favorite. Okay, well, it seems we spent a little bit longer than I anticipated talking about the 1984 movie and the various editions thereof. So I think we'll call this an episode, and we'll pick up where we left off next time, where we'll talk about the two Sci-Fi Channel miniseries versions. Alrighty, so that is it from me to you for now. So until next time, thanks for watching, and sayonara. You'll gain an understanding of